Alrighty, guys, and welcome back for our second match of the day. We're going to have Ainlay 1 versus McNally coming up here. We do have the players in the lobby and stuff like that, and we're just going to give you a little rundown of what the teams are, because we actually did manage to see both of these teams on stream yesterday. So I'm going to let my lovely analyst do a little breakdown of kind of what we saw yesterday, and maybe some insight coming in here as we are starting picking bans, and then we'll get straight into talking about that.
I do have to correct you a little bit. You keep saying yesterday when I think you mean last week.
Last week, yes. I am alive.
Yeah, you totally didn't go into a coma or anything.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a caster coma.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so I believe that Ainlay won. They were the team last week who had the really good rotations around objectives. So they were able to be first to every single Baron's Rift Herald spawn or even Drake spawn. So they were always there first. They were able to have their roam their bot lane around really well, making sure that they use that to gain advantage, to translate mid lane advantage into other side lanes. While McNally, they were the team that had the very strong 1-3-1 composition, the split pushing composition. So they were able to use side lane pressure instead to draw attention to other lanes, to make sure that, well, they had pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of comps we're going to get down here. We do have some early bans. We got the Nunu, the Vladimir, and the Rumble ban. I haven't seen a ton of Rumble, but the Kaisa ban I think is pretty crucial there. We've seen a ton of that this tournament. I mean, she is one of the most dominated carries right now, particularly even in pro play. But I think some of the Ainlay bans might be a little targeted.
Yeah, I think I'm not 100. My memory is failing me right now, but I do think that one of the teams had Vladimir last week, and well, I do believe that they won the game. And Caitlyn ban as well, just making sure that the bot lane, she does not have too much an advantage.
Yeah,
that
so
was
I'm curious.
I'm
curious to see what's going to be the first pick here. I got the Camille ban coming down too. Actually, we saw a ton of that in the first day. It was a very, very dominant pick. Actually, I think McNally themselves used it in their split push comp to just utilize its extreme strength in lane, but also just how much pressure she has, but also how gank resistant she is. So I think it's a very crucial coming down here. And also the Hecarim picked up early. This is a jungler we've been seeing just a ton in this tournament. Very, very confident early game, but also he scales well too. So you don't get like that really strong early game, then he just falls off. He just has to get his first few camps, and then he has an incredibly healthy clear, tons of gank potential, and with just how strong Chem Tank is right now, you're a very fast horse.
Yeah, and also just connecting that to the Vladimir ban, like it takes away the ability of someone dodging his engage as well. With 3 seconds left on McNally, I wonder who they're going to pick. Malphite.
Malphite is actually, we haven't seen a ton of this, but been very strong for actually I think most of this season, particularly with the new items coming out. Just gives you consistent engage. You can also flex it down support if you're feeling a little meaty, but I highly doubt we're going to see that. I think that is a top lane coming out. But the Malphite just gives you usually a very consistent lane. There's not a lot of matchups he loses into. And then just, I mean, you hit level 6, you smash your face into the enemy team, and there's not a lot more to it.
Yeah, even if they do miss the even if Malphite does fall behind in the early game, you have one job. Just press R, make sure that they are able to, that it sets up the rest of the team really well.
Okay. I'm quickly just reading in chat here. It looks like the pro draft had a few problems there. They're gonna they Kane over Malphite. So we're currently just talking to the teams and see if we want to just move forward draft and just everyone pretend that Malphite's Kane, or if they just want to remake it here. So they're going to quickly get that decided. My producer will let me know as soon as they're going to do it. And okay, it's already been decided. Don't even have to wait this time. They're going to remake the pro draft, and I think they're just going to start from there. So we'll wait for the new link to come down and we'll get started in there. But we do see some of maybe the priorities and stuff like that the teams are going into. Like the Hecarim and the Galio picks was kind of showing maybe Ainlay wanted a little bit more of a safer, consistent early game. They're just going to pick random picks now. Well, McNally with the Kane and the Thresh, what comp do you think they were thinking with that?
Oh man, I do think that they were trying to just potentially go for a pick comp. Because Kane, he can get into the side lanes really fast with his, I believe it's called Shadow Walk. It's probably not, but his E, which allows him to go through walls. Thresh can also set him up really well for that as well.
Yeah, it just gives you so much priority there. I'm just going to double check with my producer. Is the new pro draft up or... All right, they're currently just still waiting for the pick there. Oh, they finally picked Teemo. Have we seen a Teemo in this tournament?
I don't think so. We almost.
Oh no, we did. We did. In the first 2 games, there was. I swear there was one Teemo.
Dude, was there?
I swear. I think in like one of the double top lanes they ran, I think there was a Teemo in.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a beautiful sight. Yeah, I think actually, well, we have a little bit of a moment here. We're waiting. I think we should maybe reflect on the bans a little bit more. If you wanted to provide maybe some more insight and stuff like that, maybe talk about, because you did cover on how the Vlad just resists ganks, but maybe why did you think maybe they banned the Nunu? Was it just maybe McNally has a strong pick on it, or what were they trying to prevent with that?
We did see a Nunu play. Again, my memory is failing me on who picked it.
It was Wagner.
It was Wagner? Okay. But the thing about Nunu is that, again, he's also a really fast champion. Once he gets the biggest snowball ever, once he gets that rolling down the lane, there is a lot of CC potential at that. So something that has been really crucial is about how much CC can each team get and who can engage. Nunu can also engage pretty well with his W, just rolling it down the lane, making sure that it gets the knock up. And also he has pretty good follow-up as well with his E, just making sure that to lock everyone down. And with that being said, it allows everyone to follow up on it too.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the Nunu too is you get a lot of jungle priority, which is how quick his clear is, but also because he has the chomp. It's similar to Q. Yeah, it's very similar to Cho'Gath ult, and where you basically can just Q smite, and you usually be able to quote unquote outsmite your opponent at most points in the game. So utilizing that, you can allow yourself to actually have a lot of priority on these jungles, because if they try and go for that 50-50 smite take, usually the Nunu is going to come out on top if they layer their abilities correctly. So I think that's another cool thing to see with the ban. And as you all can see on screen, we are getting started in new pro draft. They're just going to remake the bans up to the point instead we'll be replacing the Malphite with a Kayn as they intended to pick. And then we will get up to that point and see some bans some more champions coming out.
Yeah, I wonder if, I'm pretty sure Ainlay, they did mean to pick the Galio. And talk about the Hecarim Galio. If Hecarim goes in, you can just have Galio, Hero's Entrance, jump on as well. So there was a lot of, I guess, more dive. I don't know what else to say. It's just a lot of dive we've been seeing.
Yeah, and definitely the big, I think, power of the Galio too is there isn't really a lane that he just severely loses. It's actually very difficult to pick up a Galio, particularly when to kill a Galio rather, especially when he has the aftershock. Because even if you're like a melee champ, stuff like that, I mean, with AP, he just got that big shield and he can just max it to negate your poke damage. If you're an AD champ, you engage on him, he taunts you, smacks you a couple times, aftershock gives him way too many stats, it doesn't die. And also, he just has so much side lane priority, is because he can just roam down with his ult or even just go and EW into lane for a combo. And also I think a big thing too is if he does get ahead, he can itemize into proto, stuff like that, or sorry, was it rocket belt nowadays? Oh yeah. And he just has a ton of damage that he can output at that point. So I think Galio is a very, very strong pick. He's also very easy to work around because he just works in so many. Now he's a little bit lower of a damage pick, so you have to make sure you do have other damage in the map, which Ainlay currently does in the Hecarim, and I presume they're probably going to maybe go into a hyper carry or something like that. So just as long as you're working around his potentially low damage, Galio is just an incredibly consistent pick that's really easy to work around, particularly in more coordinated team play like you're seeing in the tournament.
But the thing about Galio, he makes up for his for the lack of damage or the low damage with his crowd control ability, with his W, with his taunt, and we're going to see even more crowd control.
Yeah, we're seeing Galio support coming out here with the Orianna picked up in the mid lane, and that's already a setup of just a beautiful engage combo, because you just obviously have Hecarim go in, fear everybody, Galio ults on top of him, or you can you can either shockwave, so just drop your ball onto the Hecarim, run in, ult everybody with the Orianna ult, and then Galio ult. You can Galio ult and then Orianna ult. There's just so many ways you can. But also it serves as really good disengage too. If you have, I don't know, maybe the Kayn or anybody dives in, you can just drop that entire combo on him in that instance too. Actually, cool. I think a Nico is picked up from McNally here.
Yeah, the Nico, I have seen top lane Nico a couple of times, but I'm assuming that this is going to go into the mid lane. So it's going to be a lot of these control just Mage's mid lane. Nico, she does have a substantial amount of burst and a lot of CC as well. If she hits onto some of the immobile carries, such as Orianna, if she can get on top of them, there's just a lot that can come out from this Nico. And we're also seeing Tristana ban. Tristana, even though we haven't seen her, I don't think we've seen her a lot in this tournament. She is very strong. She has been very strong recently, just getting the resets as well with her rocket jump, just being a really slippery Yordle. So yeah, that ban is just taking away that pick. And both of these teams, they still need to pick their 80 carries as well.
Now, in the Wukong ban coming out too, we've seen that a lot in the team too, because in the tournament rather, because Wukong just gets a very safe lane a lot of the time because he has naturally just very heavy stacking armor. He has a consistent ult to go in, and honestly, he just does trade very effectively into a lot of champions. So he's another kind of like just safe, very consistent pick. We have seen it get snowballed out by like a Darius and stuff like that, but Wukong is safe into most lanes, and we do see that Gnar ban coming out here, so they are kind of targeting the remaining lanes on either side. Ooh, I think we got a Xayah coming here. I figured you're kind of a Xayah connoisseur yourself.
Yeah, I love playing this champion. She has really good setup or follow-up with her blade caller, and she also has a very good escape tool with her ultimate. She is able to dodge. She can dodge some of the engage from the Hecarim, from the Orianna or the Galio, just with her ultimate, and so that's going to allow her to stay alive in these team fights, which is going to be crucial because she's going to be one of the main damage carriers. That being said, Jinx being picked.
Ooh,
if she gets she's a hyper carry. If she gets ahead and she just starts throwing out these rockets onto these low health or very squishy champions, Ainlay's going to win the team fight.
Yeah, no, the hyper carry too, and also she just has a wall of protection in front of her too. If the McNally decides to go in first, just in the form of the Galio and the Hecarim can just, or even the Orianna with the disengage from the ult, can just stand in front of that Jinx and just not let anybody get on top of her. And then Aatrox picked up in the top lane here, looking for maybe a pretty dually matchup. Going to see if McNally goes into a tank or something here. What do you think? Which pick is going to come up for McNally here? I need those instant hot takes so you can look really smart.
Oh man, I think that they might be playing towards a weak side top lane. Just because you want to get okay or not. I'm very bad at top lane, so.
No, we just got the gangplank coming down. McNally is actually a very interesting comp, like kind of lacking a traditional tank. And I think it might be interesting to just break down kind of what are the dynamics of McNally's comp. What's kind of their win condition? What are they looking for? Because this is Ainlay's, you can kind of break down just kind of by looking at it, but McNally's is a little bit more interesting in my opinion.
McNally, they might be going for the 1-3-1, the side lanes again, because that is what they were strong at. Gangplank, you can have his ultimate, you can drop his ultimate anywhere on the map. It's a global ultimate. If he's in the top lane, if there's a down in the bottom lane, just throw the ultimate down, just to say I'm helping. So I do think that they're going to be looking for this kind of, how to explain it? Again, this 1-3-1 side lane pushing comp. Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to see what the Nico's going to go into, because I'm not going to lie, that's one of my solo queue picks, and I caught in there. Orianna and Nico are like one of my two mains, so it's kind of funny to see this matchup in the mid lane here. But Nico does have a lot of variety in builds that you can run on her, even with the new items. Now, there are some of the builds that are stronger than others, but you can go into like an Everfrost Glacial Augment build, which just gives you a ridiculous amount of CC, because you run Glacial Augment, you auto attack them. The other champion basically can't move. It's a free E follow up into the Q, and then if you have Everfrost on them too, you can just stun them even more. And that's even just disincluding your ult. So the amount of CC you get from that build is ridiculous. But the disadvantage of that build is you do get less damage than say if you just went for the Luden's Electrocute build instead. So I'm kind of curious to see which build they're going to pull out here, because if they are going for that 1-3-1, I think Nico might actually maybe go into that CC build, just because it is a little bit more safe in the side lane, and Nico can actually push towers pretty well with the W passive, or they might just go straight into the more damage. So if somebody comes out, they just attempt to fight them. But I'm very curious to see which build is going to come out on the Nico here. But now we've talked quite a bit about McNally's and stuff like that. Let's do cover on Ainlay's comp. We have kind of alluded to that it's kind of a team fighty comp, but what do you think the dynamic of this is going to be? My guess is going to be kind of the 4-man squad of Hecarim, Galio, Orianna, Jinx kind of doing everything. Aatrox is up in the top lane fighting. Occasionally it's like, hey, we're doing a fight. Can you TP down here? He's farming the wave. He's like, I guess. So what do you think is going to be some priority lanes to kind of look at? Just actually, even in this matchup entirely. So feel free to cover on like Ainlay's comp, and then which lane should we look at during the game?
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself with just having the 4-1 composition. But if you're looking at the early game, I think that they might want to focus some of their attention into the top lane because of Aatrox versus Gangplank. I do think that Gangplank can bully the Aatrox a little bit with his barrels, and also with his parlay, his Q. Also, Gangplank's orange can also escape the infernal chains that Aatrox has. So I do think that Hecarim will be looking towards the top side a little bit, making sure that Aatrox can have a presence in the fights later on in the game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something crucial we're going to see too. And I think what we're actually going to see in this game compared to like the last one was I think we're going to see a lot more precedence on the supports maybe roam plays, because last game we had the Yuumi who kind of just sits on the Sivir, doesn't do a lot of roaming, and then you saw the Nautilus would roam around. But with the Thresh on the board and the Galio, they can both roam just as effectively as each other. The Galio has a little bit of an edge with the ult, but Thresh can still effectively roam, particularly if maybe they go into the Moby boots or something like that, if they do want to focus on that roam game. But I think there's going to be a lot of fighting over vision in the bottom lane. I mean, I almost say this every match, but I think it's
true though,
pushing forward how important it is, because if you let this Thresh or this Galio just waltz into your mid lane, you have free CC set up for both these champions. You have the insane burst damage from Orianna or even Nico into the follow-up CC from both, and that's usually just going to be a kill going down on bot lane. So I think you're going to see a lot of fighting around his bottom lane, even just for vision and stuff like that, because these are just two crucial lanes they need to get going, because they have hyper carries on both sides. They want the Xayah to be strong on the side of McNally. Jinx is almost the primary damage dealer on the side of Ainlay. Orianna does scale up too, but I think the Jinx is going to be that like crucial like late game ace, if you will, that you want to focus on just putting as much scaling into as possible.
The issue that we did talk about a little bit earlier, though, is that McNally, they don't have a strong front line. Gangplank, I don't think he's going to be going tank Gangplank. And that kind of creates an issue for Xayah a little bit, because she only can protect herself with her ultimate, and I'm assuming if she goes Gale Force, there's a little bit of protection there as well, a little bit of escape. But Xayah does really well if there's a strong front line and create the space. And McNally doesn't really have that. So it's going to be, their composition is a little bit harder to execute. But that being said, if you do it well, if you do get all these Gangplank barrels down, if you do get the Nico burst as well, the Kayn is adding on top of that. If you do have all of that, it can be a really potent team fight.
Mm-hmm. No, I think we are seeing kind of like a blend of both of them actually playing to their preferred styles. As we kind of covered in the pre-game, like this right at the beginning, where Ainlay does kind of like to play around more that team fight, rotate for objectives, focus on the overall macro play, where McNally does like to play with that 1-3-1. And I think Kayn is actually a big thing big topic rather to discuss with the 1-3-1 comp, because he's able to set up ganks and stuff so effectively. And maybe if the Hecarim and them are focusing on objective, Kayn just goes in the jungle, steals some stuff. But it's so easy to set up these ganks with the Kayn because he just phases through the wall. And even though they don't maybe have the most CC even with the Gangplank in the top lane, the Kayn can just get in there so easy and just get these ganks off. But the same also does go for the Hecarim. The Hecarim is a little bit more predictable because, unlike privileged Kayn over here, he can't phase through the wall. But when you get Chem Tank and stuff like that, it kind of feels like he phases through the wall because he's at the bottom of the river and then suddenly he's right on top of you. So I think we're gonna see potentially a lot of ganks here, or it's gonna come down to McNally trying to play that 1-3-1. It's actually punishing by focusing more in the macro game. They're gonna maybe they see McNally's taking top tier. They're like, okay, we're just gonna take Dragon. And actually, a little bit on that note too, Ainlay, we saw a lot in their game. What they would do is when Rift Herald, they would basically take the Dragon, and then when after that, they would move their bot lane mid, and then they would move their mid laner who had TP usually to the bot lane, and then they would go take Rift Herald as soon as it spawned or whenever they had the priority to do it, and then they would keep this rotation up throughout the whole game, and they actually took every single Dragon and then took all the Rift Heralds and just kept this pressure up in the early game. So if they're able to replicate that, I think it might deny McNally some of that ability to even run the 1-3-1, because maybe they'll take a tower top, but they're going to risk a lot if Ainlay is playing together like they did last game, or last week.
Yeah, definitely. When Ainlay, they were rotating their bot lane around the whole entire map, they were also pushing the tempo of the game ahead. So they were making sure that the scaling team was able to scale really well, because they were just making sure that the pace of the game does not fall or slow down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important just to, you're going to see basically this game come down to as dumb and as simple as it is to put, whichever team executes their comp and their preferred style better is just going to take this. Because both comps kind of punish each other in a way that you need to understand how it works. Because like a 1-3-1 focuses on, say the team, like the more team fight kind of objective-based team like Ainlay is taking objectives. Well, you can push the top lane all the way up with your Gangplank or even your Xayah in the bot lane or wherever you got anybody you can punish on cross sides of the map. Well, on the other flip side, if Ainlay is staying ahead of the objectives and just taking more than McNally is able to trade, you're going to see this dynamic where Ainlay's just snowballing ahead. And I really do feel like a broken record. But like this rip, I think the bottom scuttle is going to see a lot of pressure. Like in last game you saw, they were able to pressure off the Zac and actually take the double scuttle instead of just fighting directly over bottom. But I think the fight over bottom scuttle here is going to be incredibly important because whichever one of these bottom lane gets ahead is just going to be able to shove the other one to their tower. Because Xayah and Jinx do have similar wave clear. I think Xayah is a little bit better in the early game. I admit I'm not an AD carry player, but whichever one does get ahead is able to all in better than the other one. And as dumb as it sounds, you just push them in, you get bot lane prio. And that's actually quite bad for Ainlay, who likes to focus on these dragons and stuff like that. Because you have one of your lanes pushing in. It's very hard to rotate to objectives, pull your bot lane up. So that you might see them maybe focus a little bit, try and get that bot lane ahead. Because if you get bot lane prio, it becomes significantly easier to focus on dragon and some of the objectives sitting on the bottom side.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then the thing about Jinx is you want everyone to be grouped up in team fights as well. So there also once you get the Runaan's Hurricane and you have the rockets flying out from the cube, she can deal a lot of damage if everyone is grouped up. But that is kind of on the side of McNally to make sure that they do not group up, to make sure that Jinx does not have this advantage.
Yeah, so I'm judging by this pathing here. It appears like the Hecarim is starting blue, and that's likely they're going to take the buff here. We've been seeing this most of it. That's why I imagine it is the dominant pathing here. Is you actually just... Oh, actually, this is a new one. We haven't seen the really Krug take in a while, but I think the Hecarim is going to go for this Gromp and then actually maybe immediately go down to red buff, maybe take another camp on the way, and then just grab the red buff and then fight over the prio on the bottom scuttle there. Well, you see Kayn, because the Kayn can clear the Krugs early, is able to just get a ton of gold off that as well, and I think might actually path towards bottom as well. So I think we might actually see this like full fight over scuttle come to fruition, or if they maybe spot the Hecarim bottom, maybe the Kayn just opts to instead maybe like counter jungle, take top scuttle, or just trade something instead of just taking a fight. So I think it's gonna be a very interesting dynamic to see when we get to the point of the scuttle spawning, because I think that's where we're gonna see our first big play of the game.
Yeah, it looks like that the two junglers are going to be able to are going to be full clearing their top side jungle, and Hecarim is able to get there first to the bottom side first, but Kayn is also not very far behind as well. But in this case, I do think that McNally does have the advantage a little bit because Kayn is going to be rotating over to the bottom bottom side. McNally's bottom lane is pushed up decently far, I think, and they're also going to be just keep pushing up. They do have this ward in the river. If they did not have this ward, Kayn could have just easily punished this early push, but...
Oh, we got some early fighting on the ball in here. Oh, I think, they almost got the Galio locked on their tower here, forcing out the flash early, and that is vital. So they do take a fight here. They have a half chunked out Galio support, and I definitely think that fight for the scuttle's going down. Both junglers going for a full clear, though. Actually, I think Kayn is going to make it down to that scuttle first. Why not? Oh, this is actually very, very good for McNally if they do just manage to further secure this. But then we got the rotate coming up from Ainlay. It's like the prophecy has come true. We have a 3v3 fight on the bottom lane here. They're just zoning each other out. They're looking to secure that. So, okay, the scuttle is secured for Ainlay, and they just need to make sure they don't go heavily down in this fight. And you go heavily. Oh, that just barely missed. A good flash coming out from the Thresh. So that was actually very, very good from Ainlay. It looked like they were going to be able to McNally was going to be able to snatch up the scuttle early, but they deny it and crucially get that vision on the bottom lane. Actually, as I say that, we got some fighting up in the top lane here. The Gangplank slapping back. It's like, well, you're supposed to be weak early, but no. Gangplank does a ton of damage.
It looks like they're going to be fighting over the top scuttle too.
All right, well, we got them engaging into here, but a big thing to notice is actually with that fight, that forced the Aatrox back, so that makes him teleport here because they need to fight over this scuttle. But I think they might actually just give it up, but you notice the mid lane is roaming up here. But actually, they might have been able to punish early with that fight because they did push the Aatrox out. They might have been able to get that scuttle prio. But I think a big thing to know is Kayn is very, very weak in the early game when it comes to 1v1s. Like Hecarim, I think, just straight up beats him. So that's why he didn't take that fight, because Gangplank is a little bit weaker, particularly in multiple person engages early, and so is Kane. So even if they did take maybe that 3v3, I think the Orianna Hecarim Aatrox just straight up beats the Gangplank, Kane, and Nico early on. So they opted to not go for that fight. But this is huge, though. They've gotten a double scuttle on the side of Ainlay, and now they can look towards like setting up those dragon plays and stuff like that that they really do enjoy playing around.
Yeah, and one thing that I did notice early on is that Gangplank was able to get a recall off early because he was slow pushing the wave. The first two to three waves, he was able to collapse that onto Aatrox's tower, and it looks like every single time that I try to talk, something is going to happen.
We just have fights happening. Yeah, that's such a potent early game. Got the engage coming out from here, but I think the Aatrox is just going to slither out of there. But actually, this is pretty crucial too if they are looking to go into the Kane build, because you see he just got his stacks there. As my friend kind of bluntly put it, is sometimes when you're Kane in the early game, you just walk in the lane just to smack the guy a couple times, not because you want to get the kill, because you want to get those procs as early as you can. Because Kane is actually very, very weak out of form, but once he does get into one of his forms, he hits a very oh my god, the game to the mid lane, forces up a flash. Really good response on the route here from Ripper in the mid lane. But back to the point in the jungle there, it's you want your Kane to get form as soon as possible, because it is such an important power spike. Now, which form do you think they're going for? That there's kind of a spoiler in the top lane there, but which form do you think is best in this comp?
I mean, just with the amount of just be able to get onto the Jinx and onto the Orianna. Honestly, possibly, I do think that blue form has been seeing a lot of popularity recently, so there might be a little bit of that as well. Just be able to, I guess, do more burst damage. But then if you do go for the red form, it's also going to be very crucial, because there is a lot of healing on the other side. You want to make sure that you also have a little bit of healing as well.
Well, and also with Kane going into the red form, it does give you kind of a pseudo front line. Obviously not tanky is like say a traditional tank or something like that, particularly like the Galley or even the Thresh at this point, but it gives you another frontliner to work around with. But I think we might see the Shadow Assassin, like you said, because they do want to focus maybe more on this 1-3-1, and just the gank potential from the Shadow Assassin is so high, because you already have a lot of burst damage in these lanes between the Gangplank, the Nico, and the bot lane as well. And then if you just come in with a Shadow Assassin Kane, you can usually get those kills. But even the ganks on the side of the red Kane are also good. So I think it's really going to be a toss-up on which they prefer. And whichever one they pick is going to be pretty telling to which play style they want to go around. Where they go in the red Kane, maybe they're looking for a little bit more skirmishing, a little bit more of that pseudo tank in the front line. Where if they go with the Shadow Assassin, I think they fully committed to playing that 1-3-1 as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, and we're also kind of seeing level 6s come out from across the map. Gangplank just hit level 7 because he was able to kind of bully this Aatrox a little bit. The Aatrox was lost a lot of experience and gold on the top side because he was chunked out. He didn't have teleport because he had expended early, and this is going to put Gangplank at a very big advantage against this Aatrox, and it's going to be really crucial later in the stages of the game. And you can see kind of how McNally, they're trying to clear a little bit of division with this bot lane pressure that they have. And Gangplank, he's setting up this slow push as well. Again, locking the Aatrox on the turret.
Wait, we got the gank coming in the mid lane here. It misses the E, but actually that Gangplank ult is coming down, slowing down the Orianna.
Here comes Hecarim.
Doesn't have to kill, but the Hecarim's coming in from behind. He is a little bit ahead in the damage right now, but he still is not winning those 2v1s. Oh, and that Kane ult comes out crucially. Just can't escape. You might be able to dash away, but the Kane is inside of you and gets out, and that's a huge first blood secured for McNally.
Yeah, getting this Kane ahead is going to be it's going to be important, because he wants to get his form as soon as possible so that he can make more, he can do more plays, be more of a champion in this game. And with this mid lane pressure and the bot lane pressure, McNally are the one. McNally are the one who are going to get this dragon.
I don't think it could have killed, but you know, it still scared me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that was a very good thing, as you just touched on there. Just they had the mid lane prio and they had the bot lane prio. Not only did they just win that fight, they had the prio in the 2 lanes too, so that's just a free dragon being picked up on the side of McNally here. And they're getting themselves rolling. Well, with Kane and Gangplank too, who are champions who kind of scale a little bit later in the game. We've obviously Xayah and Jinx are hyper carries, but I think if they manage to keep themselves ahead and deny Ainlay from being able to get onto these objectives, it's going to be very crucial, because obviously the team fight comp gets objectives. They just become that much more potent, but that's also their win condition. That's what they need to play around, because they want to force fights, force different stuff like that to make McNally come to them, or force them to trade somewhere across the side, because McNally is playing that 1-3-1 comp. But if McNally's taking these objectives, it's kind of negating some of the advantage that Ainlay does have.
Yeah, Ainlay, we talked about earlier how they had very good rotations coming out from the bottom lane, just rotating people around the map, playing around teleport really well. But in this game, they haven't been able to do that. They haven't been able to set up for these objectives as well as they did when we saw them in the game last week. And they're kind of dropping the ball a little bit. They're 1,000 gold behind, and it looks like Orion's a little bit caught out.
Yeah, we got a fight coming down in the mid lane here. Huge Nico wall coming down. The shield is crucially going to be able to keep her up in the re-engage here. The Kane's coming in looking to secure that kill, but the Nico just barely manages to win the kill before falling down there. But it looks like we're going to have a 2v1 into this Kane blanket on the names there quickly, but Kane manages to get out with the ult. Hecarim coming down. Got the crucial fear on the Kane. They're probably just going to be able to barely finish him off here. The Kane kiting so effectively. The Triumph coming down, keeping the Hecarim extremely healthy, and it looks like the Aatrox is going to pick up the final kill on the end here. But a good flash coming down from the Gangplank to deny that play from going any worse. And that's a huge pickup from Ainlay, turning that what looked like just to be a 1 loss on the pick there into a 2-1 advantage for them, and a Rift Herald most importantly.
Yeah, it started out just as a little scuffle between the mid laners, resulting in Nico getting the solo kill onto this Orianna. But you had the junglers join in on the fight, and then the top laners came in right after. So it's like welcoming a new player into the game. People just kept piling on top of each other. But Aatrox is able to do more in these team fights because he has more of this CC, which the Gangplank, yes, he has the barrels, but if he doesn't have the damage, they don't really do anything.
Aatrox is does have a lot of side lane pressure and stuff like that, but in those team fights, as you said, he has the CC, but also crucially, he just has so much healing that he can just draw the attention of the enemy team just so effectively. Because they're beating down this Aatrox. He pops all, hits a couple people, and he's almost restored like half his health bar or more just from the passive and the healing from his ult. And actually, I think his E as well, if I remember the champion correctly. So he's very dominant in team fights, not as just that. He's kind of a pseudo tank, much the same as Red Kane, where he's not as tanky as your traditional tank, but because of his lifesteal and because of his damage, he just forces attention towards him like you want to playing a tank. And then we got a crucial freeze coming up from the top lane here to kind of snowball the XP advantage and the gold in the favor of the Gangplank, who just wants to hold the Aatrox hostage up in this top lane. Yeah,
you can see how Gangplank is able to have a little bit of a gold lead over this Aatrox, just from his passive, his Q as well. Just the fact that he is setting up, just pulling this Aatrox in the top lane is also crucially denying a little bit of the XP, just making sure that the Aatrox has to walk up that far into the lane to be able to get it. And you can see how there is I cannot talk right now. Oh, what was I going to say? Yeah, the dragon's coming up a little bit in just under a minute. So you can see how Ainlay was trying to set up a little bit of vision. Just the pathing from Nico, I believe that is where Nico would want to go. If she does want to walk into the river, just making sure that the bottom lane is safe.
Yeah, exactly. And just, like a good amount of vision coming out from Ainlay too. But as you see, the dragon is spawning in 30 seconds here as well. And with Ainlay having that vision control, it is pretty crucial. But what a main thing to notice too is McNally did deny the vision that's directly in their jungle. They do have the one just sitting up in the brush there. Oh, as we zone out. See, we're talking about vision. It's the classic story. Somebody dies top. It happened last game. It's got to happen today. And that's a huge kill being picked up by the Aatrox there. And that's actually pretty crucial with the dragon coming up in 8 seconds here, because if they do take priority and just immediately push onto that dragon, the Gangplank won't even be up to respond to it, and the Aatrox has teleport. So this is heavily in favor of Ainlay if they decide to go for this dragon. Maybe they're going to push the lanes or something like that, but this is a very advantageous point for them to just do something.
Yeah, it seemed like that Gangplank did use his ultimate in that little 1v1 in the top lane. So he won't have that for this crucial team fight either. although he does have teleport. That being said, Rift Herald being dropped in mid lane, drawing the attention, splitting the attention of McNally, making sure so he can get this. I cannot form sentences today. I don't know what's happening. Ainlay making sure that they can get this dragon. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. No, because the Rift Herald forces the Nico to stay there and just clear it, particularly because of where it was. You have the opportunity to clear it, and it's kind of a risky fight for McNally to take onto that dragon. So it is a good drop. Honestly, it probably could have been used a little bit better because they had so much prio on it already. It looks like we got some little scuffles onto the bot lane. Nice hook coming down and some good poke damage from the Xayah. But it's interesting to see because of just yes, the Rift Herald does force them out and forces the Nico to stay there, but you already had dragon pressure, so I don't know. But they also didn't have pushing lanes as well, and I'm not sure if it timed out. So it's kind of interesting to use, but we got to push up with the top lane here that might incite McNally's looking for something, because McNally also does have the dominant vision in the top lane as well. So the Gangplank is very safe in order to do this push like he is right now. I think they might be looking for either a rotate into mid, which he will be spotted out by this ward here, or oh no, he opted into the jungle. He's going to steal some camps. No, just going for the deep ward there. So actually, that's kind of telling of what maybe McNally's looking for. I think that ward is more meant to spot at the jungler. Wow, look at me, I'm so smart. I didn't just look at the map and guess that. Yeah, that crucially lets them know where the Hecarim is, and this lets lanes know which prio they can kind of play around. Now, mid lane is pushing in at this moment, but you look, bot lane is continuing their push. They're pushing all the way in because they know exactly where the Hecarim is, and they know it's incredibly safe for them to do this. And now you have the Thresh roam coming mid. He will be spotted out by the wards though, so probably not getting any kill, and it's just going to turn into him dewarding, which actually is going to give McNally the dominant ward control on the bottom side at the moment.
Yeah,
looks like we got some scuffles coming in.
Yeah, I won't talk.
Yeah, no talk. Only fights. And we got the engage coming down onto the Gangplank here. Gangplank all being invested. And Hecarim's looking to continue to engage. Nice little sidestep on the Kayn re-engage there. And I think they're not going to fully commit to this fight. But the Gangplank heal coming up. I think with the Orianna's rotating up from the bottom lane. Hecarim ult comes down. And the engage goes down onto the Gangplank. And that's a huge combo to pick up the kill onto the Gangplank. And a beautiful play by Ainlay, utilizing their mid laner's pushing lane to bring them up here. Or sorry, he didn't have the pushing lane. He just straight up came up here for the gank. He was like, I got you.
Yeah, this port's gonna take some of the CS as well. But like as he said, even though Orianna did not have the pushing lane, back to numbers advantage. Orianna was able to get there first, while Nico was just stuck in the lane of just making sure denying some of the CS. But Orianna being there was just ensured that Hecarim and Aatrox were going to be able to get the kill onto the Gangplank.
Yeah, particularly just the heals and stuff coming down onto the Gangplank and stuff like that. The life advantage went in the favor of the Kayn and the Gangplank and the re-engage there. But yeah, as you said, the minute you bring up the Orianna, it pulls the numbers in their favor, and then they just run it all the way home. And it looks like they're rotating their bot lane up to mid here. And crucially, the Nico and the Orianna both do have teleport on the bottom lane there. So if they do look for any plays and stuff like that, both can join.
Yeah, everyone has teleport on the map right now. Gangplank, Aatrox. Orianna just used her flash. So Orianna not having that flash in upcoming team fight is going to be pretty important, because if Kayn can get onto her, if Gangplank can get all these barrels on top, she's going to be dead within 2 seconds.
Exactly, but I think McNally doesn't really want to let these team fights happen just because of the sheer amount of engage that Ainlay has, and with the gold lead being as even as it is, if Ainlay does their engage correctly, you're going to find it's going to be very difficult for McNally to fight back just simply because of the nature of their comp. So they're just wisely just keeping these lanes and stuff pushed over here. Ainlay, crucially though, it did take the Rift Herald there off of different pressure, and I think they got a little pick onto the Galio here, but no, you did invest the flash. All right, that's actually pretty crucial, pulling out from the Galio, because Galio flash taunt engage is definitely something of just horrors, sheer horrors.
One thing that I did realize though is that we haven't seen a lot of Hex Flash coming out. Like I don't think I've seen one single Hex Flash rune at all. Actually, I do think that having Hex Flash does give a little bit more of an engage opportunities to your team, but it's just a low something minor. It's not going to make or break a game, but I do like that a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely, it's something you have to know how to utilize and play around as well, because you do kind of give up a little bit of advantageous spells in your runes to do it. But if you're able to play around the Hex Slash and stuff like that, particularly on picks like Alistair or Nautilus or any of the more heavy gauge in sports, you just get a free walls and stuff like that, and you can set up plays that otherwise would be impossible, and you also don't feel as bad about using your flash because you do get some value out of it after. But we are setting up for the dragon play here. A good ward coming down here, but oh yeah, it's just out of range of the control ward, I think. But we got vision on both sides here. Ainlay doesn't have a lot of vision up into the jungle of McNally, so I don't think they know the teams here. But as I say that, they all walk on top of the wards, so they're very confident. They know McNally's here, and they are setting up for the dragon. Now, I think Ainlay is a little bit more favored in this team fight if they do the engage properly, but McNally does have a lot of individual strength here, and crucially, they do pick up the scuttle there to get some damage. But it's Ainlay just going straight on the dragon, knowing they have the team fight advantage, and they're going to force McNally to engage on them as they just slowly burn down this dragon. Now, Hecarim also does have the level advantage. We've got the Galio engage coming on here.
Here we go.
Oh, the Nico ult unfortunately gets on the back line.
Zaya
get the kill onto the Jink, but the Zaya ult just comes up huge and gets a kill. And this is just McNally winning off the back of that massive Zaya ult. Damage coming down. That's been McNally picking up the dragon that looked like it should have been in Ainlay's favor. And a great team fight. Playing around there, engaged the Nico got in the back line, forced Ainlay to push up into that spot where they were all sitting, and then Zaya just pressed ult and melted them all.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Nico, even though it looked like that she did miss her ultimate, it forced everyone from Ainlay to move up, to line up in a perfect line just for Zaya to get her ultimate off and just bring the feathers back, just melting everyone on the side of Ainlay. And that was an ace, honestly. We were talking about how Ainlay did have this fairly strong team fight composition, but we also talked about how if McNally were to able to execute on theirs, making sure that they could get root everyone up, they could also just destroy team fights as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's like McNally's like almost a little bit more disadvantaged in the team fight, but you see that's how they have to win those team fights. They're utilizing like the big AoE ult that Nico does have that kind of almost bridges that gap in their 1-3 comp into almost making it like kind of a pseudo team fight comp as well. And they just perfectly set up for that Zaya ult. So their comp is very, very versatile in that regards, but also if Ainlay did kind of over-engage into the middle there and only managed to like pick up one kill, and that did allow the Nico to just counter-engage, and then the Zaya ult came out, and then the rest was history. So kind of a little bit of an execution error on the side of Ainlay as well, but just a beautiful ult coming down from Nico into the Zaya ult, and I think that, I mean, we've said it like 3 times, but that was the key to that fight there. But actually, I think another thing to look kind of at the vision control here as well is that Ainlay does have control over the top side, particularly towards that Baron and stuff like that. Obviously, not a fight, not a thing you want to take right at this moment because of just how close. Actually, McNally's got a little bit of advantage, but the teams are pretty close in the team fight regards. So you don't really want to be looking towards that. And you know, as I'm talking about how they have vision control, McNally just walks in, takes it all away, but it looks like the Thresh might pay for this with his life, and the TP is coming down onto the side of Ainlay. Oh, they got a huge pickup onto the kill here. They got a little bit of damage coming down in here, but that's a big pick coming down from Ainlay. You know that Baron I said they might not take? Well, I think they might be setting up to take that, or they're going to look for some lane priority.
Yeah, they're going to see the Kayn on the bottom side of the map for some reason. I honestly do not know why he's there. So they're going to just turn onto this Baron to take it instead.
Yeah, so they're just honestly looking for Baron steal here from the Nico. Oh, but got engaged from the Hecarim onto the Nico. Gets the fear down, the Galio ult coming down. They're just going to stay on the Baron here, but this might actually be a crucial throw as the Gangplank ult comes down. We got the engage onto the Gangplank. Oh my god, that barrel just melts the side of Ainlay. And because they split up in that team fight, it let McNally go away, but a huge engage coming back from the Aatrox zones them off. And because Ainlay just invested so much into that Nico, took their jungler away, they just left their bot side open, let Gangplank walk up, get the barrel down, and unfortunately Ainlay just a little bit of a construed play, if you will.
Yeah, Ainlay has been, they've had a lot of missed executions in these team fights or these fights in general. They weren't able to get the Baron because they didn't have the proper setup for it. Nico, like you said, they invested a little bit too much into the Nico. Galio came over as well, but they weren't able to pick her off. And this kind of allowed a space for Gangplank and Zaya to walk up a little bit. And you saw that barrel. Jinx, she is a hyper carry, but she is also very squishy. So if she does get hit by any damage at all, she's going to be taken out of the fight immediately.
Yeah, I think a crucial spot on the heck rib too that our observer is highlighting, which will let the Gangplank know that he is pretty free to push up in the bottom lane there, because as much as they did clear the ward, they know where the heck room is now because of that. So Gangplank's pushing up the wave there and keeping in, kind of sticking back though, because they're not quite sure where the mid lane and the AD carry are. So probably just staying back, keeping the wave at roughly that range, and just going to free farm it there. Maybe set up a freeze or just go for a hard clear and back. But I think actually interesting to see there, as much as I think the Kayn being down in the bottom lane wasn't the greatest decision, it did kind of work out that they got a full pushing lane, and then the Gangplank came down and just picked up a bunch of CS on it and got damage onto that bottom lane second tier turret. So even though I think it wasn't the best play, but because Ainlay kind of botched that Baron play, it allowed McNally to get value out of something that originally maybe wouldn't have. And they also do see that back on the heck room, knowing that they can set up for a play. Man, my observer is smurfing. I don't even have to do my job.
Yeah, honestly, there's not much else that I can say. Gangplank, I do think that Gangplank should have pushed in a little bit more just to keep that tempo up, make someone respond to the side lane, because now you can see it's kind of the bottom wave is kind of stuck in the middle of it. No one can really get the CS, so it's just there's a little bit of gold lost right there. But that being said, everyone's gonna be setting up for this mountain drink that's coming up in just under 10 seconds. And McNally, they have the river priority, but the Saccharum seems like he wants to get in.
Yeah, exactly. With McNally being up on gold here, they definitely have a little bit of the advantage in this fight just from sheer damage values, but as long as Ainlay does their engage correctly, they may be able to come out on top of this. But it's going to be down to just a little dance around Dragon here. Dragon's fully resetting. I think like Ainlay's just looking for this engage here, because McNally definitely does not have the engage tools to go in. Or maybe just like an idle thresh hook or something like that. But they're looking to punish. I think the Nico engage is kind of okay, but when you have a Galio and a Hecarim on the other side, maybe it's not the best idea. And speaking of engage, there it is! The huge wobble combo coming out from Ainlay, setting up the Orianna ball in the back, but actually McNally's trading. He's got these high damage hyper carries coming down, and they actually managed to trade onto the end of the fight. Just so much damage coming down from the Gangplank. But no, the Aatrox looks for the 1v3, but doesn't quite get it off. And that is the McNally barely picking up that fight. Actually, I'm going to let you break that one down. That was quite the event.
Okay, that was just a very good wombo combo from the side of Ainlay. They were able to group up all 5 members, just get them corralled into this bounce house, have the Gallia ultimate, have the Orianna shockwave, everyone just CC'd up, but they didn't have the damage to back it up. That allowed us, Nico and Xayah to survive for a little bit longer, and once Xayah survived that fight, so she was able to just rain hell onto the rest of... Sorry, I can't... Oh my goodness, what is happening?
No, it's all good.
Yeah, she was able just to stay alive, and that kind of was what destroyed Ainlay. If you cannot take out the Xayah, who's going to be the main damage of this team, the main source of sustained damage, she's just going to rip these team fights apart.
Yeah, and definitely like the counter engage from McNally here. I think like, yeah, they can engage kind of like you were touching on the middle of the team fight with the Nico ult, but I think the Nico ult and the Xayah ult are just much better saved for the counter engage there. Because you saw Ainlay, like they did their engage like damn near as perfect as it can get, but because they're behind and don't have the gold advantage, they lost out on sheer damage. And then because McNally didn't die, you just drop the Nico ult. That's almost a guaranteed like however many people got caught in that Nico ult are going to get hit by a max damage Xayah. Yeah, I think it was like the 3 people, because I think Hecarim, Galio, and I think Orianna were kind of caught up in the middle there, just looking to finish the fight. Just got caught up in the Nico ult, and then the Xayah ult comes down, and because Gangplank's just chilling there, just drops a barrel down as well. So the re-engage from McNally is incredibly strong. As you see, like if Ainlay had been even with McNally with the gold lead, they would have won. They would have just won off of the sheer burst damage of that, like, honestly beautiful engage. That wombo combo was beautiful. I actually really enjoyed watching it. But unfortunately, just because they're so far behind in the gold, they just don't have the advantage they need to make that wombo combo work and do the damage it needs. And that's actually just crucial that you saw McNally's just been winning out of objectives. They won out on that Baron fight, and that it's just Ainlay kind of like if they hadn't like lost those like previous 2 fights to kind of unfortunate, honestly just mostly mechanical errors, they would have been able to win that fight and then pick up a dragon. Yeah,
definitely. But again, McNally, they had a very big gold advantage going into that fight, so they were going to be able to do more damage, have more resistances as well. So they survived the wombo combo, and after the wombo combo, all of the abilities, crucial abilities have been used. The Shockwave, Galio had no ultimate to save anyone anymore. So Ainlay didn't really have a response to the counter engage from McNally.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
Yeah, I think it's actually a crucial strength of their comp. But as much as I was kind of alluding this to being kind of 1-3-1 comp, I think it's more astute to call it a 1-3-1 counter engage comp. Actually, I have a little pick coming down on the Kane here. Good lock up from the Aatrox coming down.
I don't think you're gonna
engage,
get it.
but no, the Gangplank ult just completely negates them away. Yeah, but I didn't think anybody was gonna die there, but they did get the Gangplank ult, which will help them with a little bit with the global pressure there. But they do trade a turret across the map.
Yeah, and Nico, she now has this Sonya's Hourglass as well, so she's going to have a lot more survivability in these team fights, to not just get bursted out immediately. And that also pairs up really well with her ultimate as well, just making sure that she is able to survive.
Yeah, like the Zhonya's gives it that crucial ability to just deny the initial engage. I think is the best way to use it, because then that allows you to just come out and then use your ult, hit as many people as around you once you come out of your Zhonya's, and then just re-engage the fight. Now this obviously depends on the fight and how you got engaged and stuff like that, but say they just do the wombo combo exactly like they did last time. You just Zhonya's it, ult right after, and then you get a giant shield because you're going to hit like pretty much everybody that engaged, and you're not going to die in the rest of that team fight. So that's as you said, it's a very crucial item pickup from the Nico here to almost just deny what Ainlay's comp is intended to do. And the gold lead here is just getting pretty scary in the favor of McNally.
Yeah, and speaking of shielding, we didn't talk about this a lot, but McNally are on Soul Point right now, and Soul, it gives you this extra shielding in addition to some more resistances, more armor, and more magic resist. But this shielding is going to allow McNally to survive the initial wombo combo and the initial burst from the side of Ainlay. And Ainlay, obviously, they don't want that. They don't want anyone to survive the wombo combo, so they're going to be fighting for this mountain Drake.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of taking away the vision and stuff like that. And they did spot both of those control wards, so they are aware how much vision McNally has in here. But yeah, I think we're going to see a fight over this dragon because they need to deny McNally that soul. Because yeah, as you said,
Definitely.
the minute they lose that dragon, McNally gets a shield that kind of almost negates their entire comp in its full glory. So I think we're going to see McNally just aggressively start up the dragon here, and then just probably melt it down, force them to go in for a fight here. I think we're going to just see which team fight executes it better. But as we saw, the full wombo combo from Ainlay not enough to instantly kill them. So it's going to be a very difficult fight for the side of Ainlay coming here unless everything goes their way.
It's going to be a smite fight.
I think we're going for a smite fight. No way, they get it. Crucial, but we got the engage coming down from the Galio here, but there's a counter engage from the Nico to cover on it. So powerful. Gets the kill instantly onto the Jinx. The Nico just hard carrying this fight with the re-engage. Zaya on the back lane, killing off the Galio, and that is just McNally cleanly winning that fight. Secures the Drake with the smite, and then just the re-engage from the Nico onto the back line. So good, and that's a free Baron if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, even if you do... In that team fight, Ainlay weren't able to get off the wombo combo that we did see in the previous dragon. And even when they did get off the wombo combo, McNally still survived and were able to fight back. And as we said, Nico, the counter engage from the Nico and Zaya using her ultimate just to stay alive is what allowed McNally to win that team fight right there. Allowing them to translate that into a Baron, and they're going to be pushing this gold lead even further ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a crucial thing too to notice is just with the gold lead being so high, Nico actually just straight up one-shot the Jinx in that fight.
Oh yeah.
After they re-engaged with the ult, she didn't instantly die, and actually a full stack Dark Seal as well. So Nico's just got a ridiculous amount of damage on here, and Nico being the primary re-engage or anything like that from the side of McNally just kind of denies the carries from being able to do anything. Because your Jinx is your primary damage on the side of Ainlay here, but unfortunately she's behind. So with the Nico being able just to one-shot her, and she could probably one-shot the Orianna too. They got pretty similar health pools. So you're definitely kind of in dire straits as Ainlay here. And I think it's McNally to just slowly whittle away at these turrets and utilize this Baron buff as much as possible. I think they may force Ainlay to group and just take a fight and maybe win it off. Or they can opt to play the side lanes because McNally's comp does have the versatility to do that.
Yeah, you can also see Jinx, she did pick up the stopwatch now, so stopwatch is going to be able to allow her to survive some of the some of the burst from Nico. But what comes after the burst? More damage from the Zaya, from the Nico, the Gangplank barrels as well, so it's very hard for Jinx to navigate these team fights.
Yeah, exactly. With her just being so short range on everything outside the rockets, it's very difficult for her to play at the range she wants. Because the range she wants is in range of the gangplank, even the cane engage. It's in range of everything as an AD carry you don't want to see. So, but they do have a pretty beefy front line in the form of on the front line of Ainlay. But because McNally is just so far ahead, the damage just kind of negates that, to be honest.
Yeah, they're just melting these turrets as a 5-man unit right now, pushing for the inhibitor as well. We were talking about the 1-3-1 team, just split pushing, but if we group up as 5, it also allows you to take these turrets as well. Just making sure that grouping up as 5, making sure that the wombo combo, you have a response to that.
Exactly. A little knock up in your ops without going for the lantern. It's kind of a funny interaction. I think the Kane's gonna get out. Oh, okay. No. The ring gate over there. Oh, I got cursed it. They got the lockdown, but he's just doing so much damage. He's so tanky in that darkened farm, and the ring gate coming down from McNally. Huge Giles coming down onto the thing. Oh, the blades, whatever it's called. The pull the feathers back. That's too much damage. And it's Saya just melting them away. The Kane going down, looking to secure that kill. Gonna maybe die to the fountain here. Huge Zion's coming down for the Warrior to stay alive. There's getting the kill onto Hecarim, and that is McNally taking for their victory in this match and securing themselves a placement in the last match of the day against Osborne 2.
Oh man, that game was so exciting to watch. I was from the wombo combo to the ability of McNally to execute these team fights, to get off the counter engage, just everything was just very satisfying to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And you just saw we were talking about a difference in style here of just how each team wants to play. And honestly, whichever one executes it just takes it home. But Ainlay kind of just losing that advantage of their comp where they could play around those objectives and stuff like that. And McNally able to just punish them in a few plays. I think particularly that Baron was a very important one to look at. They were able to snowball ahead and take a team that traditionally should maybe lose in the team fight if Ainlay is at the same level, and just reverse it back and make the re-engage just so potent that Ainlay couldn't even do anything. And I think actually the Red King coming out was pretty important to just annoy the backline and not let Ainlay's damage dealers do anything.
Yeah, I did touch on this a little bit earlier. When Ainlay use their abilities for the wombo combo, they don't have any more abilities. They don't have anything else to resist McNally's counter engage. So that is kind of the double-edged of playing a wombo combo team comp, because you don't have any responses to a Nico ultimate, to Zaya's pullback of feathers, or even to a Kane jumping inside you.
Exactly, and it's just so much potency coming down from McNally. Exceptionally well played, and they executed their comp to a key. And we're going to head to break here. Our next matchup will be Ainlay 2 versus Jasper Place 1, and we'll see you all after the break.